Hello and welcome to the Change Gang podcast with me, your host, Laura Ordile. I'm here to help you hold on to your sanity and your soul as you move through big change. I'm here to guide you from frustration to flow in your life, bridging the practical and the woo, just for you. Let's go. All right, Welcome, Change Gang. Welcome to the week. I'm super excited because I have a lovely friend and an amazing person here today to have a conversation with me. And it's Valerieann Giovanni. And we were just talking for a minute about how to describe her because she is pretty amazing and has all these different things that she does. And we came up with what did we say now? Now I'm lost. Creative mystical mind magician. That's what it is. Magician. I couldn't remember the last word. And you are a bit of a magician. And you have all these different things that you pull out of your hat to help people. And I think that's amazing. Thanks for being here with me today, Valerieann. I'm so excited.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I'm excited to be here too, Laura. This is fun to play again with you. It's been quite a while since we physically were together. That's been how many years ago?
I can't believe it's been 5 years. We got together the month before the shutdown with all of that fun stuff that happened, and it was literally like 2-3 weeks before that happened because I came there and I came to Sedona when you were in Sedona.
Right.
In February.
That's right. So we just snuck that in, didn't we? Right before.
Right before. And you know what was crazy is, I don't know if you remember this, but I got sick like the weekend that we got there. And I don't think it was, I don't think it was COVID at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been, who knows, but I actually had COVID later and it was nothing like what I had there. But I remember after when I got home and the whole shutdown process and everything, it was like, oh, dang, I hope they're safe. I hope everything's okay and that everything went well. But I did have the opportunity to come in person and paint with you. And that was a moment of change in my life. And I enjoyed that so much. It was so fun. And I'm sorry, but just even being able to go through and see so many of your paintings that you had in there was such a fun thing for me because I had found you, and I found you in a little movie that you were a part of, and it was all about play and how important play is in changing your life. And that was something I wanted to touch on as we start into this a little bit is it was very different for you for a long time in your life, in your art, in your creativity even. It was almost structured. And then it kind of kicked over into, and I would say opened up into something very different. What was that like for you? What happened in that process that changed that for you?
Thanks for asking. This is a huge part of my life, and I think listeners will be able to relate to it in their own way because, as kids, we actually come onto this planet playful. Most of us have a chance to play a little bit before all of the, hey, you got to get your work done kicks in, and you got to do things this way, the right way, and all of that kicks in. And, so for me, I loved creating. I loved art from the beginning, and it was playful. You probably remember the first time you picked up crayons or when you were little, coloring, playing with paint or, in kindergarten or school. And for me, it was fun and playful and exciting. And I did it freely. And then I went to kindergarten and learned that, there are lines that you color inside of. You got to color inside the lines. And then I'll never forget the day that the teacher brings Johnny up in front of the class and whatever his name, I don't remember who it was, but we'll call him Johnny, and said, hey, everybody look at Johnny's picture. And she holds it up and said, see how even it's colored, and he stayed inside the line so good. And I thought, wow, well, I want to be noticed and for doing good. So I thought, okay, I guess I better stay inside the lines and color smoothly, and maybe I can get the accolades like Johnny did. And so it goes for all of us. I think we have different situations in our lives at home or at school where we have rules that we have to follow, and it's the way people keep us safe. Our parents keep us safe. But then as we grow up, sometimes those old rules, we don't grow out of them, and we're still stuck by old boundaries, old lines, keeping us coloring smooth when our little hearts want to color outside the lines and have fun and play. So because of that experience, it really had a great influence on me as an artist. I loved art for years. I played with what I had, and finally when I was in the 5th grade, the teacher was an artist. She was an oil painter and had her paintings on the wall. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I want to be able to paint like that. So I begged my mom and dad, please get me some oil paints. And I finally got my oil paints and started painting. But the thing that ruled and guided what I did was still that idea that I needed to paint things realistic according to how things were logically. And, you go to the county fair, and who got blue ribbons? Those who painted realism. And the better the tree looked, or the mountain, or the flower, then they got the better ribbons. And so I paid attention to that and realized, wow, I guess that's what you do. And coming from a little town in Idaho, 300 people, everybody saw things very realistic. And so if you wanted to be appreciated as an artist, it better look like a horse or whatever you were painting, or they wouldn't know what to do with it. They didn't know what to do with abstract, so I didn't know either. Didn't know what to do with that. But finally, I was I don't know, how old was I? Wow, actually, I'm thinking about this, skipping forward. I was actually pregnant with my 4th child, 8 months pregnant. And I've been doing realism since I was little, and started selling paintings when I was 16, started teaching when I was 23, teaching other people how to paint. And so I'm teaching realism, and then all of a sudden, for some reason, don't know how it happened, there was a class offered, and the teacher was an artist from Germany who came to this little podunk town in Idaho to teach a class. And so, of course, I took it. There weren't that many, classes available where I live, so I took the class. And this is a key turning point for me. She said, okay, today we're going to paint joy. And I'm like, we're gonna what? What do you mean? How do you paint something that you can't see, right? Like, wow, I had never considered painting a feeling before. Like, how do you paint a feeling? This was new. So and we were using watercolors at the time, so I'm doing my best. And I didn't realize it till afterwards. I was thinking about it, thinking, using my mind, what color is joy? What shape is joy? And I'm being all analytical about it. And so I'm thinking, wow, I'm doing really good, because this was way different than I'd ever done. And I'm getting pretty close to done. And teacher comes around and she's, looking over everybody's shoulder, and she leans over my shoulder and she's like, well, that doesn't look very joyful.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
I'm like, okay. And I'm just like deflated, thinking, what the heck? I've worked so hard on it. Key word there. I worked hard on it.
Worked hard on that joy.
I did. I was working hard on that, thinking about it and everything. And she goes, no. She says, you need first to feel it. Get into the feeling of it. And once you're feeling it, then let that feeling come through your arm and down into the paintbrush and onto the paper or canvas or whatever. I was like, wow, what a different concept for me. That was new. And so after that class, I started exploring feelings, and it was scary to do something different. And why was it scary? Because, what will people think, right?
Right.
If you stand up in front of the kindergarten class with this abstract piece of art, where there are no lines for sure, and you're going all over the place, but there's, what kind of a response are you going to get? See, it's the little 5-year-old that's still, trying to paint inside the lines and break out of the lines at the same time, like that conflict going back and forth. But I gave myself permission to do so. And I remember the first time I totally let go with oil paint. I made sure that husband and children were gone. I did not want to have anybody around. I wanted to be able to freely paint and create. And what I decided to do was to give myself permission to be like a child again, like a kid. Okay, it's like, okay, you're 5 years old, you've got your paints, and just what colors do you love? Put those colors out on your palette. So I started putting the paint out and noticed I was so much more present with actually the paint itself. The buttery feel of that coming out of the tube and being squeezed onto the palette, and each color, and I was so present and there. And I wasn't trying to do anything with my mind. I was being very present. And I then picked up the brushes and I would feel the brushes and found one that just felt good in my hand, felt good. And so the whole process, I was feeling alive. That's what it was. I was alive, aliveness inside of me. And as I picked up the brush and was dipping it in the paint, I felt it. I felt it like I had never felt the brush going into the paint before and blending with another color and then putting it on that canvas. I felt it. And so as I started painting, I'm feeling it and I'm just feeling the paint. And I know inside I'm thinking, before I ever started, I may never show this canvas to anybody, so I'm giving myself complete freedom to just enjoy putting paint on the canvas. It doesn't have to look like anything. It's not about that, right? So I kept painting. And what happened was this presence, this aliveness was so saturating and so enveloping me that it was almost like being in this beautiful trance of exquisite peace and joy, and it was just like, oh, yummy. But I wasn't conscious of this. I can talk about it now, but in the moment, I was totally just in it, in the experience. And I'm painting, and the feeling expanded and grew. And after a while, I'm just sobbing, the tears of joy and like this love of self and life, and everything was so full. I never felt that kind of love. It was beyond love that I'd ever known before in my
Wow.
body. It was just complete joy there. As compared to what I tried to do years ago, like this was complete joy in my body. And so I'm just painting, sobbing, in joy. And all of a sudden it was like coming out of it, realizing that I had covered the canvas with paint. And I just sort of stood back and looked at it. And I was so amazed that there was this beautiful cosmic like flower. It was stunning. It's to this day, I think it's the best painting I've ever done. And, I have it hanging in a very specific place in my house. It reminds me of that experience, and that's what I'm always going for, is being present, real, alive. And it's play. It's fun. At that point, I quit working at my painting. I started playing. And in fact, that does bring to mind that even before this class happened, when I was in the depths of realism with my art, I had painted one of my dad's Percheron horses, and with the harness on and everything. You can see it on my website. But I'd done all the detail of the harness, and, I spent all these hours working on this to make it just really detailed and good. And I knew my dad would love it, and I'd get all the praise, and I could win awards. And did I? Yes, I did. I won the state fair, the championship in the state fair with this painting, and lots of other awards with it. But I will always remember what I felt when I got through painting that. It was beautiful, yes, but it was a moment when I realized that I had worked hard on it. And there's something happened inside of me that was like, you know what? If I have to work that hard to paint the way that I thought I had to, it's like I'd rather not paint anymore. It was just like this moment of awareness.
Yeah.
And isn't it interesting that after that is when this other class showed up?
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that? And right there, I think that moment, I don't know, that's come for me in a few different ways in life. And I've found that to be when something gets so complicated or so difficult or it is so much work. I had a moment of that where it's like, I think it's supposed to be so much simpler. I just think it's supposed to be so much simpler than this. And I have to go with that. And I found that whether it's supposed to be simpler, easier, where it's supposed to be lighter, all of those things, I think whatever you apply it to, it changes the way that you look at everything going forward. It changes the way you look at what you're doing. It changes relationships. It changes your, I guess I'll call it ideology. That was one of the places that I kind of came to it was in religion for me. When I was involved in different religions, and I was involved in a lot of them, I'll be honest. I was looking, I was searching, and I was this and I was that, and I finally was like, this is too complicated. It's got to be so much. I think it's so much easier than this, and from there, like you said, everything kind of changed and opened up. And I think when you make that moment of it's not supposed to be like this, then the opportunities start to come. and then and open to them a little. And even though you had that moment of when you were in the class of, oh my, how am I supposed to do this? What do you mean? And kind of fighting against the change process, because our mind is wonderful, but it is trying to keep us on the path that it thinks is safe for us. So it does that. Oh, no, you have to stay on this path. No, do this. And even when we realize it or not, we're like, you did this whole thing on joy, but it was apparently all structured.
Yes.
And done. And it's like, oh, no, let's do it this way. And I think that you've really embraced that. I love, you do these, I know you did them a while back. I know that they're not fresh and new on there, but if anybody has the opportunity to go watch these videos that you have on YouTube, they are amazing, because you do a time lapse in your painting. But what I love about them is you, in the voiceover, in the talking, you're kind of talking about the emotional process, and maybe it is something transformative that's going on, or a perspective about something that when you're painting this painting, it's like, think about this and imagine that and feel this. And when I watch one of those, it changes something inside of me, where it's such a comfort and it just feels so flowing that it's like, oh. And I'm like you, when I came and painted, when I saw your painting and you saw that, your teachers, and you saw these other ones, you're like, oh, I want to paint like that. When I saw your painting, that's what it was like for me. And I know it was so funny because, and it came, some of it at least, I remember specifically you when you were showing me how to do some of the things, and we were working together with some of the paintings and stuff. One of the things that came out in your painting, which I love that happens, when you're painting and something shows up, was a dragon.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I love that. And I remember specifically saying in your house at that time, oh, I hope someday when I paint that a dragon comes out in my painting. And I did. I had a dragon come out in one of my and I have it framed and put up, because it was like, oh, there it is. Oh my goodness. When you step in and you open to it a little bit, it's crazy what can appear in the fun
magical
moment. It is. Yeah. It's magical. And it is magical, and it's so wonderful. And even your painting even shifted into more of an emotional connection, or I don't know how to term this, but you do a special kind of painting.
Yes.
What do you call them?
Attunement paintings.
Attunement. So that's an even deeper level that you went into. How did you find that, and what was that first moment of doing that like?
Well, I've had experiences where I have been spiritually guided to specific locations on the earth and in pyramids, and where there's this vortex energy, and I've discovered that when I go into places like this, or what has happened is that the frequency or the energy is elevated. And a side note, I used to desire to, I knew there were spiritual gifts, and I thought, well, how do you get more spiritual gifts? How do you get them, right? That's cool. I want the spiritual gifts, right, Laura? Yeah, give them to me. But what happened, I learned, was when I was in Mexico at Palenque, in the middle of these pyramids, and also another location, I've had these experiences where all of a sudden it's like I've been there in the energy, and the frequency starts going up. And I started seeing and feeling things that I hadn't been feeling before, and aware of information. And it's like, when you have a radio, you tune the dial to a different channel and you get different information, right? Well, I discovered that spiritual gifts have frequency, like a measurable frequency for each spiritual gift and everything. So I was spiritually guided to go to this one location. I had watercolors and a pad of watercolor paper. And I sat down on the grass in the middle of this energy, all of this, and it was like, wow. And I was in this same state that I was when I painted that first painting, when I let go. And it's like I now had learned how to slip into that and surrender. So I just got the brush out once again and started just putting paint on. And what happened was I started writing with paint and doing things in like I will call it a language of light. And these shapes and language started coming in, and page after page of this. And I was in a completely different zone, but the whole thing felt very familiar, and while I was in that frequency, I absolutely knew what was going on, what was happening, the whole thing. And I was like, wow, that's amazing, because I had never done that before. So that was like a key experience right there of awakening this ability to go into different frequencies and access information. Well, eventually, this has been like in 2018, I moved to Sedona, Arizona, which is major vortex energy. So I lived in it and was in the smaller vortexes within Sedona, but it is a major, large vortex. And I had something happen one day while I was painting that once again, I was using acrylic paint. I usually used oil. And this whole thing happened, this painting, and I was like, it painted itself. It feels like that, right? It just comes in, and I was like, wow, that was different. That was new. And I was like, wow, I have to do another one like that. And I painted the second one. So the first one was smaller, and the next one got a little bigger, and it happened again. And about the third painting, the idea dropped in. It was like to paint 100 paintings and give myself permission to just, instead of doing one painting like I had done that original one years ago, what if you gave yourself permission to play on 100 paintings? What would happen? Well, amazing things happened. I got better and better at having things come in through me. And anyway, so now, I mean, I am able to boil it down for anyone who wants their spiritual blueprint and information channeled into a personal painting. I'm able to do that. And it's like I have the person tell me what their intention is for the painting. So, like it could be one word. Some people, I'm just scanning all the different ones, one word. Sometimes people have a whole page of things that they want to intend. And so I take all of that in and add that to what comes in from source through me into the painting. And it becomes a guide, and it has information written into it. That language of light is in it, and the shapes and the way it's painted, even the way the brush strokes are painted on the canvas. Even if the painting was all painted with white paint, the information would be there. So it's way beyond just the paint and the colors, but all of that combined, it's like writing this huge book in one painting. So you may look at your painting one day and see the dragon, Laura, right?
Yeah.
Another day, something else may speak to you, or you may get information that drops into you as you're just sitting and meditating and looking at the painting. And because it will engage with you and you will engage with it. It's alive. It has an aura, an energy field that is real.
And so what do people tell you about their experiences when you do an attunement painting for someone? Tell me a story of someone who you did one for and they came back and were like, oh, wow, this is what's happening with me in my painting.
Yeah, trying to scan which one to pull in. Well, here's one woman back east. She, had this painting and put it in her home. And part of her intention was also that people who entered her home actually experienced more awareness for themselves or guidance or felt better, and that it would influence them as well and her family. And she had a son that had a lot of challenges and had been through a lot, and within a year after, and he lived with her at the time, he was older, but then, he found the love of his life and got married and completely shifted his life. And her kids, who are adults, when they come into the home, they experience shifts and changes, and that's meant so much to her. To anybody who comes into the house, it's like, whoa, what the heck? It's like, it's such the energy of it. You can't just stand and look at it. And that's kind of the way it's been for people. It's very engaging. And for one woman, it's totally her happy place,
I get that. I understand that. When I see my dragon, it's like that. And I actually have the one that you painted and my dragon. And I have both of those dragons. And
that's awesome.
I love it. It is.
Dragons. We're paired dragons there.
It's funny and, so unexpected. And I think sometimes when the unexpected comes and it's such a gift and it's just that moment of joy, and all of a sudden you realize that you painted joy. You brought joy out into your life and into this world. And it's just like, oh, okay. It just, you can feel it when that change comes. And when it isn't that you're working so hard at something, it's just that moment of surprise and joy. I love that.
Yeah, well said. I love that. And that brings to mind something about this that I think will be helpful for the listeners. And that is that we all know we have left and right brain. And that left brain, it's all logical. And the left brain, it will analyze and things, it will think about it, and then you have emotions about those thoughts, and the unconscious mind uses the emotion, all of our sensations, habits, impulses, thoughts, and feelings to get us to take an action, to do something. But if the action that we're trying to take is something that can't even be done, like to change something that we didn't like about yesterday or 10 years ago, but the mind, it thinks that if we wish for something that it's possible to do, but if it's not possible to do it, well, then that creates anxiety. And then we loop around. It's like, the unconscious mind, it's trying to keep us safe and keep us alive. And it thinks that you need to change that thing yesterday and you need to do all this stuff and you can't do it. And people get caught. I've never done this. Get caught in the loop of the left brain thinking and this unconscious loop going around. As a creative person, it's like, it's so vital to know how to get into the right brain, the creative brain, that also includes the left brain. The right brain includes it. It does not just push the left brain aside. The right brain can take it all in, and we can really make some changes, right? this is a idea that's coming to mind. We'll play with this, okay? So imagine that you're walking on a path. You're outdoors. It's a dirt path, but it's a pretty nice path, and you're going along. There's grass on the side, and it's really nice, and you're going along, and then there's a rock in the road, and you kind of trip over it, and you're like, oh, that dang rock. And you keep going, and oh, there's more rocks, or it gets a little rough, and you're like, dang it, then you hit something and you fall, and what the heck, I don't like this. And you start like, this is a bad road. I don't like this. And you start complaining inside about this path. It just gets worse and worse and worse, and we're going, and it's getting so tough. And eventually you come against this wall. There's this wall, and you're like, what the heck? What happened? I don't even know. You're banging your head against this wall and trying to go forward, and you can't. And what happened? And okay, what most people do when they hit the wall, and what we've been taught to do is like, well, what caused this? Let's figure out what caused this. So we go back, let's go look back on that path. It's like, well, I should have taken a different path, right? I should have gone different. I should have done it different. So the mind is thinking, it doesn't know the difference between past, present. It's just, should have done it different. So now your unconscious mind is trying to get you to take a different path way back when, but it's impossible. How do you know it's impossible? For example, clap now. How about you, Laura? Clap now. Yeah, you clap now, and listener, clap now. Okay. Now, clap yesterday. Oh, you can't. And you can't. Clap tomorrow. Well, I can't clap tomorrow now. I can only clap now. So can you take a different path a week ago? No. Impossible. You can't. Imagine how anxious you might be feeling if you're trying to take the different path and it's impossible to take it, but unconscious mind is just still trying to get you to take that action because that's going to make it better for you because you keep thinking that it will. And that's the kind of analyzing that creates a loop of anxiety that just keeps feeding on more anxiety. Like it's impossible to shift that. And in that way that trying to change something that you can't change. And I know that yes, it can be shifted if you know how to play with the unconscious, right, Laura? And
yes, it can.
It can, which is Laura and I both like to do magical, mystical things with the mind, and which can be done, but it's like updating the processor. Like the mind, and it's not your fault. If, wow, I took the wrong path. No, you didn't. You took the only path you could take. At that moment, it's the only thing you could have done with everything, all the information you had at the time. It's all you could have done. And so, but the mind needs to be updated. Good news. That's done. You don't need to do it. There's nothing to do. You're fine. You're good. Oh, update. Got it. Here's the other thing. I'm just going to throw this in as a creator. And this is how I do with my paintings. It's like used to be all logical, left brain, figure it out. Let's make this path perfect. And, it's like, what do you do when you hit a wall? Instead of the logical way or what you think, in fact, trying to take the wall down, you're probably taking one brick down and there's two bricks being built up on the other side. It's a deadlock there. But another way to face what's going on in your life is when you hit a wall or challenge, the first thing is to be curious, but curious not in the way of, oh, I wonder how I got here. I need to go back and figure that out. Let's just get curious right here where we can clap right here in the present moment. So if you're up against that wall, let's get curious about the wall. Oh, well, that's an interesting wall. And maybe you touch it and you're like, oh, you start to notice how the wall feels or what's there. So in our little story, you're with me in your imagination and you're up against that wall and you're touching it and you're feeling it and you're noticing that, there's texture to it. And so then you start going along the wall and actually you realize that, when you just go over here, there's this whole new path and that's smooth and you just walk around and it's that easy. Or for somebody else, like Laura might just touch this other place and she hits this spot where it just disappears. It's gone. And there's this path up in front of her and she's just like, oh, this is great. Or somebody else, they actually found this place and actually they levitated and they went up and discovered there's a whole new level and they're at a completely different vibration and it's this whole new world and it's exciting. So by being curious, it then brings in creativity, which then brings in clarity. And then you can take actions in the present moment that are doable, things you can actually do, an action that is possible to do, not something that's trying to change something from the past. It's like, update the mind. Nope, we're done with that. Done with that. Here you are, clapping right now, not past or future. You're living right now in the present. And that's living life in aliveness. So I paint in aliveness. I live life in aliveness and presence. And therefore I can take the actions that are doable and also good to have done. That's a interesting thing when you think about that. What could I give you an example of? Like sometimes saying, you're like, here's one. You're like, it's been one heck of a day. And it's like, oh my gosh, somebody just like, you know what? If I just had a drink of some sort, it would just relax me. And, this person just, has a drink and then another one. And yeah, it did. All relaxed and fine. And it was maybe good to do, but the next day, not so good to have done when they're experiencing the hangover and the uncomfortableness and the not so good in the body. So it's good to be clear and take actions that are both possible to do and good to have done. And that's what being curious, creative, and clear will do for you.
But I want to talk for a second. So do you think but with that,
yeah,
you have changed and pivoted in your life a fair amount of times in the things that you did, not just with your painting, but in your personal life, in the journeys that you've taken, I love the story of how you got your last name. It was a journey. It was this journey. And you made these choices along the way, kind of in the moment, about how you were going to live your life. What do you think you did inside yourself? Or how do you think that journey expanded for you where you didn't have those walls as often as maybe some people do? Or did you get creative with it? Did you go, all right, so this is where I'm at now. What does this look like? Or did you find ways around or over them? Or how did those moments kind of move forward for you? And because you had big changes in your life.
Yeah. It is a softening into or surrendering that happens. Like, whenever I caught myself trying to force something or make it happen, it never works. And so, like trying to push through that wall, or tear it down, it's too much work, which brings up the thing, growing up on a farm, it's like, well, if you get your work done, then you can play. Well, I remember years ago, one year I thought, well, what if I played first and then did my work? What would happen if I gave myself permission for a whole year to put play first? What does that look like? Well, that's interesting. Even if you just start your day with something that is really what you want to do, what you want to eat or, drink, or it's for fun, not because you think you should. It's because, wow, you let the little kid part out, like, okay, if I was 5 years old, what would I do?
How did that change things for you? What was that year like for you?
At first, I had to catch myself stepping into the work, get it done. And like, wait. And but I was determined to see what would happen. And the more I played first, the more that play lengthened out. And as time went on, I realized that my life was play and that I didn't have to work anymore. Play became the way that I lived life, and it is the way I live life, is playing. So it's just shifting your focus to being present and alive and enjoying what you're doing right here, right now.
Right here, right now.
Clapping now, being present now, and not thinking you should do something different for the past or future. It's like right here now. And by also being present now, alive, creative, curious, the things that you love are attracted to you in greater abundance and without you having to work for it.
I love that. I think that pretty much sums it up right there. That whole part is to be alive and in the moment, and that doesn't, I have to add this in there real quick. That doesn't mean that you're flying by the seat of your pants all the time, or that you're not planning for your future, that you're not these ideas of what you want to accomplish and what you want to do. But it so much takes the pressure off when you allow yourself to be alive and in the moment, and to trust that the things that you're doing and the steps that you're taking are moving you into a good future, are moving you in a direction that you want to go. And simply by being in that, what you just spoke about, that feeling of it, that joy of it, that the passion of life, basically, being in that, automatically all of these things kind of flow into the path that you're in. And you're working with the universe. When you work with the universe, it is magic. It's incredible magic. And I think that it opens up all the doors when you do that. So.
Wow. I love the way you said that. That was great. Perfect.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I so appreciate that. And I'll have it in the show notes, of course, but tell people where they can go and they can find out about the attunement and your classes. And we didn't even get to it, but you made a card deck out of your paintings, which I am so blessed to have. I love it. I was so excited when you did that. And that's a whole nother adventure. We could probably have another conversation on that. But where can they find you, Valerieann? Where can they find you?
The best place to go is my website, Valerieann.com. And on social media, it's Valerieann Gio. So at Valerieann Gio on all social media.
And it's Gio, right?
Yes.
Gio.
Valerieann Gio. Yes.
Gio, as in Giovanni.
Yes, as in Giovanni. I love this. Thanks so much, Laura. This was great.
Thank you. I so enjoyed it. I hope that we get to chat some more. We need to come up with another one of what you do and another path that you're taking and explore that a little bit if we have the time at some point. Thanks, Valerieann. I hope you have a great day. And thank you, Change Gang, for being here with me in this conversation. And I hope that you had some fun with us. And I hope that it encourages you to go out and to bring in all of yourself into the life that you're living. And keep it simple, make it easy, and have fun with it. Play a little bit. And I hope that you meet me same time right here next week. Ciao. I hope today's episode was interesting to you in some way and fun. If so, hey, find someone to share it with. Maybe they need to hear it too, or maybe they'll just enjoy it. If you'd like, go ahead and grab my tips on supercharging your success. It includes a free short meditation to do just that. You can find that at bit.ly/supercharge your success. Until next time, happy day.